want to jump right in. Welcome back to the cast. I want to jump right in and address a question and a point of debate that keeps crossing my desk, coming into my inboxes. It's online, it's in my personal conversations. And that question is whether we're always supposed to be moving in unison as part of a group or a school or some section, or it's okay to move as an individual, or is it bad, or is it like, are you going to fail because you're moving as an individual, and yada, yada, yada. That question, that debate comes up a lot, right? Whether it's we're supposed to be moving in a group or as an individual, as if the two cannot exist in the same reality. Okay. Now, the question itself indicates a misunderstanding and a total ignorance of a very important principle. Okay, the principle of divine placement. And I'm going to teach this to you. I want to go slowly in this cast because a lot of folks have no idea about this principle, so much so that they don't realize that the question itself of whether you should move as a group or move as an individual indicates you have no idea about the principle of divine placement. Okay, and I'm going to teach this very simply and break it down slowly. Just stay with me to the end, and hopefully we'll never have to ask this question again. Okay, there are three types of beings on the planet, three levels of beings, and I'm going to go through each one. I'm going to call the first type of being, okay, the Indian. I'm going to call them the Indian / student, right? I'm going to call this a type of being as well as a level. Why? Because in this life, people grow and they expand. And simply because you're on one level doesn't mean you don't grow and expand and can never grow and expand. But let's talk about the level and the type of being I'm going to call an Indian / student. The Indian is, quite frankly, a student. They learn through observation. Okay? They're often found in schools, groups, political sects, communities, right? Constantly. They understand and they're at peace with the fact that they're a student, they're learning, they have no qualms with that. In fact, they're happy to learn because they understand that the lessons that they're getting as an Indian, as a student, at some point needs to be used to actually what? Enhance and be applied to their life, okay? For future work or to come into their purpose. That's the Indian. The Indian who's at peace knows they're an Indian. They have no qualms about being an Indian. They're not looking at other pupils. They're not looking at their friends. They're not looking at other people they don't know and deciding that, hold up, what are y'all doing over here? Or what are they doing over there? They're not looking around because they're at peace with being an Indian. There is one negative aspect to the Indian, and that's the Indian who's not at peace with being an Indian, even though they're very much an Indian. I'm going to call this the negative aspect. Let's just call it lost. Let's call a spade a spade. A being who's more on the negative aspect of their Indian status is not at peace with being an Indian. Actually, they're so completely unaware that they are in fact an Indian that they're looking at others and have all the time in the world to look at Tom, Dick, Larry, Susie, Sally, right? Sasha. And decide that whatever they're doing, whether it's growing, changing, or expressing themselves in some other capacity, they shouldn't be doing that over there. They belong here. And what the hell are they doing outside of this group here, this section, this whatever we're going to call it right now? They have all the time in the world to look at, analyze. They've made themselves the judge of this one, that one, and third, because perhaps in their lower mind, they honestly don't realize that it is not their purpose in this life to look at someone else and decide where they have to be and should be, right? Folks they usually don't know, or maybe they knew them for 1, 2, 3 years tops. They probably don't know their actual name. They damn sure they don't know their family, right? But they're confident in what others should be doing, people they don't actually know. That is, quite frankly, a lost Indian. That's why I said the level has two sides. And it's not so much that there's any validity to what they're saying about anyone else. They're just so at unrest. They're in a state of unpeace with being an Indian. Okay, that they can't sit still for one moment. They can't sit still for one moment and be at peace with where they are. Okay? And yes, it is very necessary to learn to sit and be still and be at peace with where you are. Let's move on to the crew type. Okay, the second type of being we're touching on is the crew type / cooperative being. This person is always in a group. They're always on crew, right? Perhaps they're always thriving in their career. They work really well with people. They honestly love working with people. They make excellent team members, okay? They thrive in a supporting role, and sometimes they quite frankly would rather be in a supportive role. They're not interested in all the pressures and all the spotlights, and they don't want any big major role. They're not trying to be the leader, and they thrive and they learn best. They learn their life principles through cooperating with others, and they're okay with being crew, right? Those who are at peace with this quote unquote crew type, cooperative type being, if they're at peace with that, like I said, they make the best team members. They're also very good friends. Crew type beings make the best of friends. Okay, that's how they learn. It's part of their love language. They're constantly in cooperation with others, and for the time, they're fine with it. We're going to go quickly into the leader / purpose driven being. This is the third type of being. The leader / purpose driven. This level or this type of being, first and foremost, they came to the planet most times as such. Sometimes they went from Indian to cooperative to leader, but very often, right, we meet individuals who fall under the category of being a born leader. That's where that term born leader comes from. Why? You can tell pretty much when they were 3, 4, and 5 years old. They probably told their parents exactly why they're here in this life. They were probably breakdancing, rapping, playing piano at 3 years old, right? This is why folks also call this level star seed. But the star seed is really depending on what generation you were born in, right? That's another conversation. But yes, there are born leaders. There are folks who, based on work and skills they attained in past lives. Now, don't go crazy. Okay, everyone on this cast is not aware of past lives. They're not comfortable with it. They don't believe in it, be that as it may. Okay, we're not going to discuss past lives now. Okay, on a side note, yes, I've been aware of past lives for the past 19 years. Not 9, not 3, not 6, not 2, 19 years. Okay, I came into that knowledge and awareness when I was in college. But we're not discussing that here, so let's throw that out because I can already feel that being somewhat of a distraction. The point is there are people, beings, who clearly came to the planet fully stocked with ridiculous levels of talent, ability. But here's something I want to really, really emphasize about the born leader / the purpose-driven individual. I got to stress the fact that oftentimes, especially the ones who developed into that throughout this lifetime, they are never, ever comfortable being and moving in groups for too long. Okay? Born leaders are not comfortable. It's not so much that they're rebellious, that they don't want to listen to authority. Actually, born leaders are pretty humble. Okay, I've seen them even when they're in groups and in schools. They're the best student in front of the class, asking the most, developed questions from left, right, front, and center. Why? Because they're also purpose driven, and they understand that the reason that they're in any school is to not only get information, but to turn that around, expand on it, look at it from every angle, turn it upside down, inside out, because they want to understand that information so much because they know in their soul that they're here for a purpose. Please stay with me. They know from the core of themselves that they're here for a purpose, and they must use that information. Expand on that information, build on that information. They know that's their assignment. And so they grab hold, they grab tight. They make the best students, actually. Don't get it twisted. Born leaders actually are also excellent students. As a matter of fact, the best leaders still make the best students, except they stand out in the class. because they know that they're here with an assignment themselves. And to this date, March 13, 2021, there are at least 300,000 born leaders walking around, at least in the flesh today. Men, women of all types. There's not just one. And yes, I know there's people on the planet that feel like, no, there's only one person, one man, one woman that came to lead the whole planet, and that's it. If that is your truth that you need to hold for whatever reason, that is your free will to do so. But under the same concept of free will, everyone on the planet not only is not limited to that awareness, they have come to the awareness, right, of something beyond that. They're not here looking for the one leader who's going to save them. On the contrary, they were born knowing since they were 2, 3, and 4 that they're here for a purpose, a very specific purpose. And oftentimes they've been prepared for that since they were in college, high school, okay? And the different things, the different lessons, okay, the different initiations they had to go through all speak to that. And I want to touch on this last part because folks will ask, well, that ain't fair, because there's folks who thrive for and they dream to just be a leader. They want to be a leader before they even get comfortable with being an Indian. That is the first flag or indicator that you may not be at the level of a leader yet. Because being a leader, trust me, you've got to go through so much ego death. You've got to go through so much. You got to go through stuff that most people don't want to go through. Most people laugh at, right? There's literally such a thing as paying the cost to be the boss. And born leaders, even the ones that are being quote unquote natural leaders, at some point they had to go through so much, and they keep going through so much. Publicly, privately, they've been through the most shit. And the religious dogma section of society will say, oh my God, you've been through so much stuff. You ain't blessed. You must be cursed. You this, you that, because you go through stuff. My dears, my friends, that is the core purpose of life. You must go through stuff. Your ego must be burned. That is the only way a leader can be proven, is their ability to come out on the other side as transformed, as refined, because they went through some shit. If you're still scared of going through things privately or publicly, you're not ready to be a leader. And those are usually the ones who actually might even still be at the lost / uncomfortable Indian level, who's looking at everyone else fighting for positions in total chaos because they're not at peace with being an Indian. Now, here's the good news. Those of us who dream of and feel like we need to be a leader too and feel like we got all it takes, it is possible to ascend from being a leader to a cooperative, an Indian to a cooperative, and then to a leader. Of course it's possible. But you first have to be at peace with wherever you are, whatever level you are at, okay? In whatever aspect I talked about today, wherever you see yourself, if you're honest, you got to first be at peace with that level. Enjoy it. There's nothing more exciting than being in a new school, meeting new people, and just being like, hey, yo, I'm new here. And soak it all up. Learn, love. Forget about all that. You must expand. There's nothing more natural in this life than expansion and change. And so even if you weren't born a leader, there's a lot of people who develop into that. Why? Because at each stage, they didn't fight it. They just, embrace their stage of being an Indian to a cooperative to a leader. But when you fight and you resist your natural level, you just waste your own time and have to be an Indian for even longer, right? Because you're not able to be present. And this is why I say be very careful with paying too much attention of where everyone else is at. It's not your role, not even as an Indian, excuse me. It's not your role on any of these stages to pay too much attention, right, to your peers and to others. That's an indication of being lost and not being at peace with where you're at. Learning to sit still and be still is very important. Let people talk. Let people feel like you're winning, you're gaining, you're losing, you're whatever. It's not your business or your concern what everyone else is doing. That is the quickest way to waste your own time and to go into a bitter, gossiping, purposeless, troll of an existing person. Like, who wants to be a troll? It is our purpose, before we even realize the details of why we're here. And by the way, most people do not know why they're born. That's why they must ask questions like, is it okay to be an individual or go off on your own? And shouldn't we always do things as a group? Let me answer this simply, even without the three beings. Mathematically, there is no group without whole, thriving, healthy individuals who what? Know their purpose, know why they were born, and you should know where you're at on these levels. If you don't know where you're at, which being you are, why you were actually born, yes, you're going to ask the question about whether it's okay to be an individual or whether you should be a whole. A group doesn't exist without each individual, and each one has to be healthy. They have to be self-aware and they have to be thriving. They also have to understand that homework comes before community work. See? And if you're not clear on your purpose and why you're here, yes, you will thrive. You will always want to be clinging to a group, and you won't make a step unless some leader spoon feeds it to you. And you will tell yourself that that's a healthy way to live. You will actually try to promote that to others. But the fact of the matter is, you may still be what? A lost Indian. You're not in the group because you feel like we should move as a whole. That's what you tell the world. But in fact, you wouldn't even know what to do if the leader wasn't there, because you still what? Need to be spoon fed. Not because you're stupid or, unintelligent. No, on the contrary, it simply means you haven't relinquished the ego. You haven't made peace with the level of Indian or the level of crew. And there are even some born leaders who are not even at peace with being that. They're actually born leaders, but they want to run behind these groups because they don't want the pressure of being a leader. They don't want the lessons. They don't want the tests. They don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want ego death. And so they're born leaders who are sitting up here trying to squeeze themselves into groups and gain people's acceptance when they have more gift, natural born leadership skills than all their peers combined. And their peers see it. They're like a fish out of water. I know, I've been there, I've experienced it. Why? Because there is a large price to pay to lead. You don't get to do what everyone else does all the time. There's a lot of sacrifices you have to make. Okay? There's a lot of ego deaths, a lot of points of quote unquote embarrassment, because the universe often uses your life to teach others. It's not just your lesson, it's a lesson for others. And if people are paying attention, they can learn a lot from you if we're humble. Okay? The aspect of being an individual and moving in unison exists together. It is connected. Okay, because you go off and you go to take an educational course in another state and you spend time with yourself growing and mastering that skill doesn't mean you've cut yourself off from the rest of the universe or from other people. It means that is where you need to be at this time in your life, because you need to master that skill. And you know this because it was downloaded into you by either your ancestors or your ascended masters, who are not here. They're on the other side. Religion calls them angels. We each have ascended masters assigned to us individually as well as collectively. Okay, and so we need not ask the question as to whether we can go off as an individual or we need to do everything as a group. You're not understanding the principles. There are levels to this. Where are you along your journey? Have you made peace with where you are? Do you even know your purpose? Individuals exist inside of groups. It's all one. You can be an individual, okay, working on individual pursuits and still be connected to the whole. That's the nature of life. And there's nothing more natural than expansion and change and understanding that in this cycle, this is what I need to be doing. I'm the same soul. I'm simply expanding and I'm growing. Embrace principles, not just facts. When you can embrace principles, the facts no longer confuse you and we debate much less. And if you didn't know, now you know.